It is my pleasure, above all, today, to be surrounded by so many talented and accomplished women. You are women who have faced unimaginable obstacles, braved public scorn and family ridicule to improve the plight of Nigerian women. The plight of pioneers is never easy. You have to pave the way through the wilderness, creating a path with limited support and limited resources. Your vision may not be shared by others who only know what society has dictated to them in the past. But for you, the status quo was not to be your modus operandi. Instead of looking at what was, you looked at what could be and said, why not? So for all those women here today, I'd like you to give yourselves a great round of applause, please. Today's theme is focused on the topic of lifting the siege for women in this country. And I don't want to focus too much on the siege itself or how we got there. I think all of you are far more aware than I could ever be of the pains and sufferings of women as they seek their rightful place in the society. Instead, I'd like to echo the remarks of Dr. Schmoll and focus on how we can move forward, on what's possible, and above all, on the importance of political and economic empowerment for women. That is the way forward. That is to achieve the goals that we are all striving for. I'll focus a little bit on the experience that we've had in the United States, and more importantly, add my voice to so many voices calling on you, the women of Nigeria, to affect real change in this country. As we all know, today is a celebration in part of Women's History Month, and March 8th marked the 103rd observance of International Women's Day. The creation of International Women's Day emerged from the activities of labor movements at the turn of the 20th century in North America and in Europe. In its early years, the day honored the women's rights movement, including advocating for the right to vote and to hold public office, and for ending discrimination in the workplace. Today, the day is observed as a time to reflect on progress, and there has been so much, as Dr. Schmoll pointed out, but also to call for change and celebrate acts of courage and determination by women like Jo, who have made a difference in their communities and countries. It is with this in mind that I am so delighted to be here with you today to promote gender equality and advance the status of women and girls in Nigeria. Evidence has amply shown that investments in women's employment, in women's health, in women's education are correlated with greater economic growth and more successful development outcomes for everyone in society, men and women alike. As our Secretary of State, John Kerry, has said, no country can get ahead if it leaves half its people behind. That is why the United States believes gender equality is critical to our shared goals of prosperity, stability, and peace, and why investing in women and girls worldwide is critical to U.S. foreign policy, to our foreign policy. I believe that engaging women as political and social actors can change policy choices and make institutions more representative and better forming. And a growing body of evidence shows that women bring a range of unique experiences and contributions in decision-making on matters of peace and security that lead to improved outcomes in conflict prevention and resolution. For these reasons, Nigeria needs to hear your voice. Nigeria needs your perspective. Nigeria needs you to be active and engaged in politics, in NGOs, in the private industry, and in government. Women, arise. Women, arise. For too long, women in Nigeria have been held back by cultural traditions that dictate a woman's place, that a woman's place is in the house. In the 1960s and 70s, women in the United States faced similar stereotypes until they decided that it was true that a woman's place was in the House of Representatives, and in all the halls of government. Women decided to stand up for themselves and be counted among the decision makers of America. A leader in the American women's liberation movement was a woman by the name of Gloria Steinem. Before she and other feminists changed the social norms, it was nearly unheard of for a woman to run for office in the United States, to lead a company, to become an engineer, or to go into outer space. Gloria Steinem and others have actively campaigned for the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment to the US Constitution, in addition to other laws and social reforms that promote equality between women and men. A woman by the name of Betty Friedan, who wrote the groundbreaking book, The Feminine Mystique, and a group of activists frustrated with the lack of government will and action in enforcing part of our Civil Rights Act, formed the National Organization for Women, popularly called NOW, to act as a NAACP for women, demanding full equality for American women. The work of this group and others helped strike down many long-standing sexually discriminatory laws, such as those that gave men superior rights in marriage and denied women equal economic opportunities. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, something that we all know a lot about and are very proud of, banned workplace discrimination not only on the basis of race and religion and national origin, but also on the basis of sex, thanks in part to the lobbying of women like Alice Paul and Coretta Scott King, the wife of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Throughout the course of our history, women took the lead in fighting for their liberation and did not wait for men to take up their cause. In 1969, newly elected Representative Shirley Chisholm of New York gave her famous speech, Equal Rights for Women, on the floor of Congress. In 1972, she was the first black woman to run for the office of the President of the United States. I'm proud to say that my own personal experience has tracked closely with these changes in America. When I first embarked on my diplomatic career a couple of decades ago, these changes were still working their way through the American system, and women had not, even in those days, had not fully attained their full place in American society. There's still work to be done, but I have to say my experience in diplomacy has suggests that there has been a great deal of progress. For example, I've worked for 6 secretaries of state in the 20-plus years that I have been an American diplomat. 3 of them, Madeleine Albright, Condoleezza Rice, and Hillary Clinton, were women. 2 of them were African Americans, I'm also proud to say. Many of my bosses throughout the years, whether they were ambassadors or assistant secretaries of state, deputy chiefs of mission, were women as well. And I am quite certain that we will have our first female president soon. I won't say whether that's a Republican or Democrat, but we're definitely going to have a woman shortly in the White House. The same process of change, obviously, is taking place in Nigeria. There are leading women in important cabinet positions in law and business. In this country, we see women taking a much greater role than they have in the past, but it is so clear that so much remains to be done. And again, when I think on a personal level of the governors that I've met, of the CEOs of important corporations, of religious leaders I've met, I don't see a lot of women's faces in those images of those people. And that needs to change in this country. Those women are by and large conspicuously absent from many of the most important positions in this country, and that is not acceptable. This country, like my own, cannot reach its full potential without female leadership. And you, women of Nigeria, you have a role to play in creating that leadership. My appeal to you here today is to do what you can in your own homes to raise up your daughters and your sons to change the perception that women are second-class citizens, that certain roles are for men and others are for women. Let us create an enabling environment, one where women can also develop their God-given talents and fulfill their purpose in life. Let's stop stereotyping women and confining them to preconceived notions of women's roles that are tied to the past. The world is changing, and people and Nigeria needs to change with the time. I'm calling for a peaceful revolution here, by the way. Women need to stand up for themselves, as that woman just did, and go after what they want. They need to get a good education. They need to study hard. They need to apply themselves. They need to be risk takers and follow the dictates of their own hearts when it comes to the careers that they want to pursue. Mothers need to guide their daughters, but not dictate to them. Mothers, please help your daughters to learn to think for themselves. There is strength in numbers, and in Nigeria, you definitely have that strength in numbers. With at least 60 million women in this country, you are a force to be reckoned with if you learn to join hands and work together.